Hey G.I. Joe fans, Joe Motion Videos 82 here. It is time for another G.I. Joe toy review. Today we'll be looking at a viewer request vehicle. This has been requested by quite a few of my viewers, so I unfortunately can't remember everyone who requested it, so I do greatly apologize for that. So I won't mention any names in fear of leaving somebody out. That's just not fair to do something like that. So what we'll be looking at is the 1984 Cobra Stinger, also known as the four-wheel drive night attack Stinger, and its driver generically called Stinger Driver, which is appropriate for the faceless anonymity of Cobra. The Stinger is arguably one of the best Cobra vehicles of its time, being released the same year as the incredibly stellar Cobra Rattler. It had plenty of competition with the Rattler, believe me. Both of those vehicles are just right there in my top 10. I don't own a Rattler yet, but when I do, I will review that one, believe you me. In '84, only 6 Cobra vehicles were released, and that is if you are counting Zartan's Chameleon, which really, he isn't Cobra, he's a mercenary, but it's still a bad guy vehicle, so I put it up there. Giving Cobra a grand total of 10 vehicles over G.I. Joe's vehicles, which were 14 at the time. So 1982 only gave us the Cobra Command headquarters, which was a Sears exclusive. I'm sure many of you know about it. It was just a cheap little cardboard setup that came with a handful of action figures. But given the fact that it was just a cheap little cardboard setup, expect to pay big bucks for the original. I've seen them go for around $500. So Hasbro's clear intent for us was to troop build Cobra vehicles and the action figures. Was this marketing genius or a flop? It's up for you to decide. And the reason why I'm asking if it was a flop, I don't know very many kids that were troop building at the time. We had one Cobra officer, one Cobra trooper, just one of all these that were intended to be troop builders, and they were just recycled. One got shot down, the next one would stand up. You know, my circle of friends, we just didn't have that kind of money to troop build. You know, we wanted every one of them, but we didn't want to waste all of our money on building up our troops. So, in my opinion, the marketing ploy did flop a bit, but it had its resurgence with those little kids who are now adults. We want to troop build. We want to embrace those childhood memories that we had, and to get all those toys that we didn't have, and to just build these grand armies which Cobra, or not Cobra, but Hasbro intended for us to build. For me, Cobra's uniforms and equipment always outclassed G.I. Joe in the area of creativity and color scheme. You know, G.I. Joe, being a traditional army, had to stay with the typical color and design of a standard military. We're talking, you know, the OD greens, the subdued colors. You know, we did get splashes of color with with some figures like the 86 Little Light, where we got splashes of red with his gray and black uniform. You know, things of that nature, they stuck to Subdued, but with Cobra they were able to be as garish as they wanted or as intimidating as they wanted, so they stuck with the Cobra blue as it's now known, or a royal blue, and black, gray, you know, just those dull tones. Then we got the Crimson Guard, but the first full crimson vehicle Cobra figure we had was the 1983 Hiss Driver. That guy, when I saw that, I was, oh man, look at that! He is so cool. You know, red uniform, black boots, and a blue chest plate. He was just awesome. I couldn't keep my eyes off him. And then the Crimson Guard came around, and I was like, oh my gosh! It just blew my mind. You know, for a 12-year-old, that's, you know, he just totally geeked out on him. So 1986, G.I. Joe started getting a little wacky. Hasbro, I should say, started getting a little wacky with the Joe team. We got the Triple T tank. Not really military, but they gave us Sergeant Slaughter, which was a deluxe figure, in order to get more money out of Sergeant Slaughter. They had to throw in that vehicle. Here, you know, make it worth your $8 or whatever it was at the time. I'm sure it wasn't $8. You know, like 4 or 5, 6 maybe tops. I'll have to look it up when I review the Triple T. And then 87 came along, taking the piss all out of G.I. Joe. I mean, we got the non-conventional looking vehicles. I mean, it got weird. It did, but I like the weird. I like the science fiction element of G.I. Joe as well as the typical army, because it fit my moods, because I was a sci-fi guy. I love Star Wars. I love military toys. I love G.I. Joe. So if I wanted to be military, I had that half of G.I. Joe for military. If I wanted to throw that sci-fi element in it, 86, 87 gave us the sci-fi element of G.I. Joe. So I had those futuristic looking vehicles and uniforms. And the G.I. Joe movie, when it came out, it really got way out in the left field. And that was almost too strange for me, but I still stuck with it. I still collected G.I. Joe. I know for a few collectors out there, it really soured the name and the brand of G.I. Joe, but I stuck to it. I still had that passion to collect those toys, and I loved it. And I still have many of those toys. Today, actually, you know, I think there are only a few of them that I had lost, but I did replace. So I stuck with it. Even into my high school years, I was still buying G.I. Joe every once in a while. I would, like I mentioned before, I would just open it up and either display it or just throw it in a box. I had a younger brother, 7 years my junior. He was still playing with toys at the time, so he would play with them, and that was it. And then occasionally I was buying G.I. Joe in my adult years. I think about 95, I stopped buying. The Star Wars really started, got the 25th anniversary, or the 20th, whichever it was, the 25th anniversary. And so I just stopped buying G.I. Joe entirely and focused on Star Wars and built my collection up from there. But I got a little sidetracked. I apologize for that. But the Stinger was released as a part of the third series of G.I. Joe. When it hit the shelves in 1984, it came boxed with the driver. It sold for $6.49. It remained on the shelves until 1986, when it was discontinued. But it was available in 1987 and 88 via mail-away, but came without the driver. The driver was available through Hasbro Direct as a part of a six-figure vehicle driver set that included Copperhead, the His Tank driver, Crankcase, Frostbite, and Thunder, which was smart. I think that was pretty smart. They re-released, I'll say that 10 times fast, re-released a vehicle without the driver, but they released a driver's pack. So you had to not only buy the vehicle that you may have missed as a child or at that time when it was released, and then you'd have to go out and buy this vehicle driver pack. Very smart. So taking a look at the Stinger, it did have a variant. The mail-away had darker snap-on pieces. The body was lighter in color. And this, I feel, is purposely done to make a distinction between the two. If you notice that when the Battlefield packs were released, that the colors were different, it was purposefully done. It allowed you to replace that accessory that you were missing, but it held a distinction, and that helps with the toy market. It helps, you know, for the aftermarket to drive the prices up. That's just my opinion. This is how I've analyzed it over time. So when we bought the original Stinger, it came in the black with the gray doors and top, and then when they re-released it, it was slightly different, so you could tell the difference because it still had the same date stamp on it from 1984, and you would see that on the Dreadnought ground assault vehicle. You flip it over, it says 1984 on it, but it clearly came out a few years later. They kept the same date stamp because that's their copyright date, but they had to change the color so you couldn't pass it off as being an authentic 1984 vehicle. And also to set the distinction apart too, so you could say, hey, yeah, I have the original 84, but I also have the mail away. So it's pretty clever. The Stinger was appropriately named. The profile shows its signature red missiles, giving the appearance of a scorpion with its tail curled. Let's take a look at that. You know, to me, that's what it reminds me of. You know, living out here in Arizona, the American Southwest, I've seen my share of scorpions, and when they have their tails curled up, it's pretty intimidating looking. So that is very appropriate, calling that a Stinger. And it also has a decal of a black widow on it, which is also a very toxic insect. I've seen my share of those too. The black widow has a red hourglass shape on its back, and that also indicates sort of danger. Stay away. I have my tail curled ready to strike. I'm venomous. And as well as the front bumper looks like fangs protruding. I mean, they clearly intended for this to look venomous, to look deadly, and that is smart. It's why Cobra wanted to strike fear into the heart of people. They were a terrorist organization, for crying out loud. They thrived on fear. So since the Stinger had the elements of both of these desert insects, do you think that Hasbro intended for the Stinger to be a desert vehicle to rival the Vamp Mark II, which was released the same year? Similar missile system on it. This one has a scorpion sticker on it, kind of giving that same look of a scorpion with its tail posed ready to strike. What do you guys think? What's your opinion on that? Were they meant to be rivals? I think so. Hasbro had that habit of having the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang, to balance out the toys. There's always one figure to match the other, and when they discontinue one, they would replace it with something a little bit better, but equal at the same time. So the Stinger, it features the push bars like the snake fangs, as I had pointed out before. It came with the 2 canvas doors and a canvas top, but not really canvas, it's plastic made to look like canvas. The back had a running board and a handrail, not to mention the off-striking quad red missiles. This vehicle, as beautiful as it is, isn't totally original. It shares features with the 82 Vamp, the 84 Mark II, later used for the 86 Dreadnought ground assault, as aforementioned, the 88 Mark II, as the Street Striker from the Street Fighter movie, the 98 Rattler 4-wheel drive, the 01 Desert Strike, 04 Vamp, the 07 Vamp Mark V. Needless to say, it is a great design. That's why Hasbro is using it over and over again. You can't go wrong with the design of these vehicles. Yeah, they take little pieces from each one and make it better and better and better. I mean, once you have perfection, you don't need to make something different. It's a beautiful thing. It's already beautiful. It's already perfect. You don't need to change it. And they didn't for once. Thank you, Hasbro. The driver is the Cobra officer, which is recolored, just colored gray. The only variant for this is the file card, which I don't have, so I'll just tell you about it. It has a glossy red back to it, which came with the Hasbro Direct release. The pieces that are easily lost and broken on this, well, let's just go ahead and take a look at it right now. So the pieces that are easily lost obviously will be the missiles. The handrail here on the back, you see here in the back, that's easily lost. The front bumper, you will quite often find that missing on the aftermarket. The doors and the top are made out of a softer plastic, so you'll find stress points right here at the top of the door from kids opening it by pulling on the window and it just getting bent in play or in storage. So those are stress points that are easily lost or easily damaged. And this bloody thing right here, the steering wheel. I could go on a 4-hour tirade about these steering wheels. My gosh, I just got lucky that this vehicle was complete when I purchased it. Otherwise, I would be chasing down a steering wheel. You guys are shopping the aftermarket just as much as I am. You know they come at a premium and an astronomical one. And we pay it! We pay it! Because we want a complete vehicle. Yeah. I'm not that guy that absolutely has to have 100% complete unless I intend to resell it. If I happen to really love that vehicle, yeah, like my Tiger Rat, I wanted that to be 100% complete because it just didn't look right. But something like a steering wheel, which isn't even seen without having to examine the vehicle, I don't see that. I don't get it. But if I want to resell that vehicle, I'm not really into buying and reselling. So, yeah, if I were to fix up a vehicle to resell, yes, I would want it to be complete. I would want it to be pristine for the person who will purchase it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the vehicle. Alright, so here it is, the 84 Stinger. And its driver, the Stinger driver. So let's go ahead and set him off to the side. Point out the modern Stinger driver, since I already have him. Get the light turned around on him. It is a very nice upgrade. This is the only variant of the Stinger driver that is out there, to the best of my knowledge. If you guys know differently, please let me know down in the comments. So let's go ahead and set that guy off to the side. Sorry, it's a little overcast, so I have to use some makeshift lighting. Please bear with me. All right, so the Stinger, it featured some very nice things. Just look at that. Imagine that coming at you if this was a real combat vehicle. So it featured its signature red missiles. It has a sticker on it of X04 Stinger missiles. These are very common to find on the aftermarket, so no worries there. I'll get into that segment later. It had the doors that swept open, kind of like Lamborghini doors. These do pop off. I don't like to do it that much because the plastic is very soft. The top comes off, which has a nice little texture pattern to it. The bottom, you can see, has 2 clips. If you could see that or not, I do apologize, but it has 2 clips that hook onto the roll cage. And the inside, this lighting is really terrible. I do apologize. On the inside, you can see that, if you can see that, has 2 seats. It has a radio in the middle. Cooling system behind the seat, either for, it looks like from where the hoses are going, it's to cool down the missiles. Has some nice detail on the dashboard, which also, you can't really see it, but kind of nice of Hasbro to do it, but there's a view screen down on the dashboard, which was featured in one of the cartoons, but it was more of a top view screen instead of down by the gear shift. But that just snaps right on. The doors, as mentioned before, some of the weak spots are right down in here, right at the window ledge, and right here at the top where it'll crease, and the clip right here, the clips down here at the bottom, they like to break off. The handrail here on the back, that's often missing. Not so much with the back running board, but the big ones I mentioned were the steering wheel and the front bumper here. Those two seem to oftentimes turn up missing. And one of the funny things I find about the Stinger, which just kind of shows that Cobra doesn't care, is you could have two more guys riding in the back, but there's a problem. If they need to fire on the fly, no pun intended, guess who's getting blown off? I mean, they would have to stop, tell the guy to jump off, and then fire their missile, which just wouldn't happen. It's a nice thought, you know, that they want you to be able to carry more troops into battle. So those are the nicer features on the Stinger. It has two sticker headlights, a winch down here in the front, non-working winch. It has the shovel for which also showed up on the vamp, and it has an air canister or a fuel canister. I would think this would be more of an air canister or a cooling system, which was replaced on the vamp. For the vamp just had a tarp. And on the back, of course, it has the quad missile launcher, which rotates at 360-degree motion, and it has some engine works here on the back as well. Let me try to get the light shined on that. Now, I do apologize, guys. Picked the wrong day for filming. But it just had some additional engine works, and it's like a small motor on the back and another air tank. And the Stinger driver is just a complete copy of the Cobra Officer, just in different colors. And the person that I purchased this from obviously took very good care of it. So this looks like it just came right out of the box. I mean, he is in very, very good shape. I won't go over the articulations. We've all played with them. We know what the articulation is on these action figures, so I'll spare you that. Okay, so the Stinger is very easy to find on the aftermarket. There are a lot of them out there. They're very popular. The fixed price starts around $30 and goes on up. These aren't auction prices. The driver, I guess people are really milking the law of supply and demand. It starts at $45 and goes up. That's a fixed price. These are the cheapest prices that I've found current. You will stand a better chance in an auction, I would think, but just keep a set price in your mind and don't go over that if you want to stay within a budget. And be patient. There are a lot of them out there, so if you missed that one auction, there's another one coming up. Don't worry about it. So let's see, here, as the parts go, the missile rack, just the missile rack by itself, is $12 on up. $9.99 for all 4 missiles. If you just need an individual missile, I've seen go as low as $1.99 on up from there. The roof is $10 on up. The door is $4.95 each. The rear stand, or the running board on the back, or the rear bumper, whatever you want to call it, is $8 on up. The handrail is $12. It's a smaller piece, easier broken, easier lost, so of course you're going to pay more for it. And the real kick in the bollocks, I have to say again, was the steering wheel. There we go. Why are you guys doing this to us? People out there selling, yeah, we want to make money. We all want to make money, but what about the little guy who doesn't have, I don't want to say little guy, that's too demeaning. I apologize for that. What about the guy who wants to stick to a budget, who wants to bring back these childhood memories, but just has that fixed income that he or she has to work with? I shouldn't just limit this to men, to males. There are a lot of female collectors out there. I used to work with one. She and I actually hit it off really well after she found out that I was a G.I. Joe collector, and you know, that's all we talked about. It drove our co-workers nuts. But the kick in the bollocks is the steering wheel. If you're one of those people, I gotta have it to complete it, they have you over a barrel. And yeah, I admit I am part of that person too. I have to have it to complete it. So I understand that desire. But as I mentioned before, for a part that's so small and almost insignificant, where you can't see it, I don't see having to spend so much money on it. I've seen steering wheels, which are notorious in the Vamp Mark II, the Stinger is coming up missing. I see those going from $17, and I saw even one that was selling for $25. I saw one that sold at auction for $50. I was just floored by this. And I'm sorry, I just can't fit my finite mind around it. I just couldn't justify something like that. But that's just me. Just a bit of a tightwad when it comes to something like that. So the question you have to ask yourself is it worth it? If it is, great. That's beautiful, because I do understand. Believe me, I understand. When I completed my tactical battle platform by buying one rifle for $4.99 to complete that silly little rifle rack that always is notoriously missing, I was ecstatic. Like, my gosh, I finally completed it. My G.I. Joe Command Center, the 83 Command Center, I had to buy 2 cameras for $10 to complete it. But I saw the value in that. You know, because the cameras are something that can be seen. And it's something that's kind of a signature piece to it, like the rifles on the platform. It's a signature piece because you could see it, and you needed it if you were in a battle, if you were raided by Cobra and you were just the only man on there, which it was designed for only one person, which I thought was silly. I'll get into that when I review it. He needed those guns. So that was really important. So let's see, just briefly going through my notes. Yeah, with this Stinger coming complete with the steering wheel and the condition that it's in, the driver being in its great condition, like I said, I just got lucky. I happened to come across the auction when it was in its last few minutes, and I sniped a person and got it for a very decent price. I ordinarily don't do that, but I didn't have a complete Stinger, and I saw that it was within the budget that I had that day, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take it, and I did. So like I said, I ordinarily don't do something like that, but I saw the opportunity, so I pounced on it. I do highly recommend that you get the Stinger. If you don't already have one, get one. If you already have one, get two, get three. It's an excellent troop building vehicle. It's a supreme vehicle to adorn your collection. It stands out. It's beautiful. It looks great next to a tank, to the HISS tank. It looks great towing behind it, having an asp, you know, towing the asp behind it. I mean, it looks nice. I mean, no Cobra collection is complete without it. So this is one vehicle I did not have as a child. Well, I take that back. I did have one. I picked it up at a yard sale or a thrift store. It wasn't complete. It's missing everything that could come off of it. So yeah, I had part of one. Excuse me. You know, like Egon said in Ghostbusters, I had part of a Slinky until I straightened it. I had part of a Stinger. I didn't straighten it, but I had part of a Stinger. But the first time I saw it, I was in the 4th grade. Yeah, 4th grade. It was '84. And I walked into my 4th grade reading teacher's room. Mrs. Metzger was her name. And sitting on her desk, obviously she took it from a kid, was the Stinger. It belonged to a kid named Adam Schiller. And I saw that, and I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa. You know, attracted to that. I started walking towards her desk. She's like, Byron, sit down. Oh, sorry. So I sat at her reading table, and she held her reading group. So yeah, that was my first exposure to the Stinger, and then John moved into town the following year, and or later that year, and then that's when I was fully immersed into the world of G.I. Joe, where I'd never seen a kid with so many freaking toys in my life. And even he didn't have multiples of the Stinger. So I've been attracted to this toy ever since then, for the past 30+ years. When I got another one, I was just so happy that I got it. It wasn't complete. It had most of everything. Is missing the missiles and the doors and the steering wheel, but I paid $5 for it at a local comic book shop. He just wanted to get rid of it. Got a big bunch of, got this huge lot of G.I. Joe stuff, and he couldn't get rid of it fast enough. And when he finally found a G.I. Joe collector, I shouldn't say finally found, but someone who was interested, he just said, here, $5, $5. So I bought a bunch of stuff from. I got a his tank for $5. I got a Stinger for $5. And eventually he just sold me this huge box of parts for $40, which I completed several vehicles out of it. And I'll mention those as I review them. So with my collection, I just happened to get lucky. That's not trying to brag, excuse me, not meaning to brag, but luck, as you guys will know, comes into play a lot when you're searching for stuff on the aftermarket. It's just the right place at the right time. So this is definitely a top shelf vehicle for me. I love the Stinger. I can't say that enough. In fact, I do have it setting on a top shelf. I just don't use that as a metaphor as being a top shelf vehicle. If there is something I call top shelf, I do have stuff sitting up on top shelves in my collection room. All this aircraft hanging from my ceiling, that's obviously top shelf. Don't have any other place for it. So the ceiling works. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I tried to be as thorough as I could with this vehicle. I'm going to try to focus more on that instead of just trying to hammer out reviews. You guys deserve a lot better than that. Spend a lot more time researching these vehicles instead of just going off of memory. And just recovering from my illness has given me that opportunity to really reflect on all of that and to find new avenues of research. And that's where I was able to pull up a lot of this information, not only from yojo.com, 3D Joes, but just other avenues, websites, comic books, things like that. I started collecting comics again, and actually I've never collected comics. Why did I say again? So I have to thank Half the Battle Timmer for that. So Timmer, thank you very much. You got me interested in collecting G.I. Joe comics just by watching your channel and your reviews. So Timmer, if you're watching, thank you very much, buddy. I do appreciate that. The comics, why did I not read them as a kid? I know why. I was dyslexic. I am dyslexic. Hated reading when I was younger. So I didn't read comics. I just thumbed through the pages. And that was it. My brother, well, his brother and dad were comic book collectors, but I just thumbed through the pages, looked at the pictures and the ads and stuff like that. So I'm enjoying the comics now. HCC788 as well, thank you. I've started watching your comic reviews, and your clips and excerpts from the comic books got me interested. So it's given me a new avenue to explore, and I did a lot of comic reading when I was in the hospital. People, walk in like, what's this idiot doing reading a comic book? Middle-aged man reading a comic. Hell yeah! Middle-aged man reading a comic? What's wrong with you? So, anyway, this has been Joe Motion Videos 82 signing off. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I enjoyed making this review. So, if you do have a future request for a toy you want to see, please let me know down in the comments. Shoot me an email. I'll have my email down in the description of this video. So, feel free. Hey, Joe Motion, I want to see the Vamp Mark II. I want to see the MMS. If I have it, I'll review it. I promise you, I will review it. I might not be able to get to it right away. I try to get to viewer requests right away. But I will... Sorry. I will get to it. My schedule is a little more flexible with reviewing. I usually wait till about a day or two before. If I don't get any requests, I'll review it. With the Vamp or with the Stinger, I wanted that one to be complete because I love that vehicle so much. So I wanted to get a complete one before I reviewed it. I'm sorry I skipped over the file card. I had to rearrange my room a little bit to make more room, and I misplaced the Stinger driver's file card. But I do apologize. That is a pretty important part of the action figure. But I didn't have the variant to show, so you know that would have been something nice as well. But having variants of file cards isn't really my forte. But if I do find it, when I review this guy, the modern Stinger driver, I'll pull up the vintage file card to read along with the modern one to check the comparisons. So thank you guys so very much, and congratulations to Bjorn Jacob and to David Boston for being my first winners, and to the other gentleman who, Homie Godzilla, who was an original winner as well, who very respectfully declined. Congratulations to you guys for being those winners, and thank you to my new subscribers. I just saw some pop up. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys doing that. More subscribers I get, get you closer to opportunities to win more prizes. So, with all that being said, and without any further blathering, I'll let you guys go. This has been Joe Motion Videos 82 signing off. You guys have a great day. Bye bye.